And what I want to do is solve this by squaring both sides. If I square the left-hand side, square root times the same square root just gives you what's underneath the radical. I have to square both sides, because what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. And negative 2 squared is 4. And when I add 1 to each side, I get 5. So I have the square, now when I substitute back in, 5 minus 1 is 4. The square root of 4 can be positive or negative 2. So this does check. Okay, let's take another problem. I'm only going to get as far as 1.4 today. So 1.5 as an assignment, I will move to the next week, and I'll handle that on Monday. And I want to talk about what's happening on Friday. 1.5 assignment and the work that I'm going to do will be moved to next week. Okay, so only through 1.4 for this week and assignments.
I noticed on my math lab that week 2, day 1 was due last week.
No, it wasn't. I don't know where you're seeing that.
Well, it's just I can't do it. The due date is last week on the website.
Okay. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that the due date is last week. I'm seeing that the due date is this Sunday, the 7th. Okay? It's not the P sections, P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are done. We're working on 1.1, 1.2, and 1.4 for this week. You're checking those?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check them again, but I checked them last night. Okay, let's take another radical equation. I think this is all that we're going to have time for. Okay, again, with a radical, you want to square both sides. So I'm going to square the left-hand side, which what happens then is you just get what's underneath the radical. It makes the radical disappear. But what you want to do on the right-hand side is to square it. And I strongly recommend that you rewrite it, because then you'll remember to use FOIL. Otherwise, you forget the middle term. So I suggest that you write 2y times 2y minus 7 times 2y minus 7. By FOIL, 2y times 2y is 4y squared. The outside is negative 14y. The inside is negative 14y. And negative times negative is a positive 49. We have a quadratic equation. We need to set this equal to 0. So I have 6y minus 11. I'm going to simplify first. 4y squared minus 28y plus 49. I'm going to get this equal to 0. So I have 4y squared. Subtract 6y from both sides, which gives you negative 34y. Add 11 to each side. So we're getting plus 60 equals 0. So I subtracted 6y and I added 11 to each side. I see a greatest common factor here of 2. So I want to factor that out. 2y squared minus 17y plus 30 equals 0. And then factor a trinomial into the product of two binomials. 2y and y. The factors of 30 that I want are 6 and 5. I want a negative 5 and a negative 6 because the outside is going to give me negative 12. The inside is negative 5. That gives me a negative 17. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So this multiplies back to give you the original. Setting each of these factors, not 2, but each of the other factors equal to 0, I get 2y is equal to 5, or y is equal to 5/2. I also get y is equal to 6. Now, if I substitute back in, 6 times 6 is 36, minus 11, I have the square root of 25, which is 5, the principal square root, and 2 times 12 is, 2 times 6 is 12, minus 7 is 5. 6 is okay. 5/2. If I substitute 5/2 in place of y under the radical, I have 6 times 5/2 minus 11, which gives me the 15 minus 11, which is the square root of 4, which is 2. And when I substitute in on the right-hand side, it doesn't check. So remember I said to be careful, even though 5/2 is a solution, it doesn't check. Always check your answer into the original equation, not where you simplified it. Don't start substituting it in down here. Substitute into the original and check and see if it works.